West have doubled as well. And so we bring in Woj and Tim Legler here for some reaction to this. And Woj, we start with you. What more are you hearing from the Warriors about Klay's injury and their expectations for their season?
Well, as Bob Myers said, there's great disappointment. He went through, a really rigorous rehab to come back. He was just playing pickup in Southern California like guys do, getting ready for training camp, and the injury hits him. So the Warriors have gone out. They're finalizing a trade for Kelly Oubre with Oklahoma City. They have a trade exception from back there from the Andre Iguodala trade that expires on Monday. They'll absorb $14.4 million of Oubre's deal. They're going to send a 2021 protected first-round pick to OKC. Now, you talk about commitment, with an organization to try to keep going. Think about this. Oubre's contract at $14.4 million with luxury tax. He's going to cost them $80 million this season. He's a fine player, and he's certainly as good as they could find in the marketplace. But instead of kind of mailing this year in terms of what they could do with the roster, $80 million commitment to bring in Oubre, and that deal will be finalized here in the next 24 hours.
That's fascinating math when a $14 million deal costs you $80 million. But let's pick up that thought, Tim. So you add Oubre and you add Wiseman, who they drafted. And remember, they have Wiggins now. What is this team this year without Klay?
Well, I still believe they can be a playoff team, and mostly that's based on the greatness of Steph Curry. I just believe in his impact on the game, not only what he does in terms of creating offense, but the opportunities that are there for other people because of his presence on the floor. He's going to make Andrew Wiggins a much better player. Their system will make him a much better player. Kelly Oubre is a guy that's going to give them now some additional punch. You still do have Draymond Green, and I think James Wiseman can be an impact player from day one. So I really like their starting five's potential, and the greatness of Steph Curry, to me, keeps them in the playoff hunt. I just don't like their bench very much at all, Greeny. Let's see if they're going to make some additions there that can really make most people buy in, not just myself, because right now I think I'd probably be on a short list of people that think that they could be a 4 or a 5 seed in the West.
And Woj, quickly, one other big story yesterday, Gordon Hayward opting out and becoming a free agent. What is his current market, and what was the reasoning behind that?
Green, there's a couple things he can do now. He can sign, obviously, as a free agent with teams who have salary cap space. There's not many of them. More likely is he'll continue to work. He and his agent, Mark Bartelstein, will continue to work with the Celtics and trying to find a sign-and-trade deal to a team that doesn't have cap space, but he can do an extension through that sign-and-trade even though he's opted out. Indiana's a team who's had interest with him. He's obviously from Indianapolis. They weren't able to get there yet on a sign-and-trade with Boston, but there's still some teams out there. New York would love to bring him in on maybe a big money, shorter deal, but I think Gordon Hayward's looking to get a longer-term security in the marketplace.
Legs, quickly, give me one team you think should be right now going crazy trying to get Gordon Hayward.
I look at the Western Conference. I think there are 3 teams. Utah, Denver, and Phoenix, for me, would be 3 teams that would be very interesting for Gordon Hayward. They need help at that position. He still wants to be a starter, and all of those teams are different levels of interest depending on how you look at them as playoff teams. Phoenix obviously on the rise now with Chris Paul. Denver and Utah need more scoring punch to try to match up with the Lakers and Clippers.
And Utah, of course, where he began his career and had so many really good seasons. And you see the countdown on your clock. NBA free agency begins in less than 10 hours. That means that Woj will be the busiest man in the United States. Thank you, guys. We'll check in a little later as we continue back to the end.
Here on SportsCenter, Woj, you also reported that based on the nature of the injury, Klay should make a full recovery. So that's good news for Klay going forward. But let's bring it back to the Warriors. What are they going to do now? Well, they're finalizing a deal with Oklahoma City to bring on Kelly Oubre Jr. Now, think about this. $14.4 million in salary with luxury tax. Kelly Oubre Jr. will cost the Warriors $80 million in this coming season. They have a trade exception they're trading him into. They're going to send a 2021 first-round pick to Oklahoma City. Now, there's no replacing Klay Thompson. This is a historic player for that organization, one of the very best in the league. But Oubre is certainly maybe the best available wing in the marketplace, a very weak crop of free agent shooting guards and wings. And so they'll get Oubre Jr. in, and he'll play a significant role for this Warriors team. But
but he doesn't get to be one of the Splash Brothers.
It's only been a couple years, but it seems like forever ago, the last time the Warriors won an NBA championship. How can they get back into the playoffs this upcoming season? Other free agent news, Gordon Hayward opts out of a $34.2 million contract. So what does that do for him personally, and what happens with the Celtics now?
Well, for Gordon Hayward now, he and his agent Mark Bartelstein are looking at, several sign and trade scenarios where, he can do an extension and move, and the Celtics can get some pieces back. One team that has had a lot of interest in Gordon Hayward, and he has interest in this, and that's going home to the Indiana Pacers. They have talked to the Celtics. They haven't been able to come up with a framework of a deal. Unclear whether they'll be able to get there. But Hayward could also sign with a team who has salary cap space. The New York Knicks would love to have Hayward, but he's looking for a longer deal, a deal he can get through that sign and trade with Boston. I think his role had diminished in Boston with Jason Tatum, with Jaylen Brown, and he's ready to start over somewhere else.
It's a shame that the Celtics didn't get to see the real Gordon Hayward following those injuries he's had over the last couple of years. By the way, free agency starts Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 o'clock on the West Coast, and that phone is buzzing as we speak.
Once again, our top story here on SportsCenter, Klay Thompson has a torn Achilles in his right leg and will miss the upcoming season. He was coming off a torn ACL in his left leg, which forced him to miss this past season. The 30-year-old suffered the Achilles injury yesterday while working out with other NBA players in Southern California. NBA free agency begins tomorrow, and Gordon Hayward will be available. The small forward decided to opt out of the final year of his contract with the Celtics, which was worth $34 million in that final year. Hayward never lived up to his potential in Boston as he dealt with injuries throughout his Celtics career. Adrian Wojnarowski back with us here on SportsCenter. Woj, so what does this news now mean for Hayward and the Celtics moving forward?
Well, it means that they're continuing to look at a number of options about where he could end up next season. He can do it in free agency with teams who have salary cap space. The Knicks have a lot of space. They would sign Gordon Hayward to a short deal in there. Atlanta has space. But sign and trade deals where his agent Mark Bartelstein is talking with teams around the league who don't have cap space but could work out a player trade with Boston that makes sense. And then, he could negotiate an extension and do that beginning at 6 o'clock tomorrow.
All right, staying in the East, Knicks fans, we've got some optimism here. How about a guy named Obi Toppin falling in your lap with that 8th overall pick last night? And many were surprised he was there. And then the Knicks continued to make moves, parting ways with 6 veteran players. Combined, the moves will free up more than $40 million in cap space, including the purge of Todd Gibson, Elfrid Payton, and Bobby Portis. So, Woj, what are the Knicks hoping to do by clearing out all this cap space moving forward?
Well, it's not for Kyrie and KD. They tried that once.
Yes.
But what it is in the short term, it's a way, they can take money. Today we reported Ed Davis from the Jazz comes with 2 second-round picks. The Jazz are getting some money off to do some other things in free agency. And so, I think for the Knicks, it's a chance to gather up draft picks by taking on salaries. They can take a flyer at a guy like Gordon Hayward. What they're trying to do are gather assets, picks, and so that when the next big player becomes available in a trade, maybe next year, they're in position to have more assets to be able to go out and get that player. They don't have the assets to trade for a big star. And then obviously with the space come trying to get back in the free agent
Just
game.
A different vibe with Leon Rose and Wes and Tibbs there in New York. We'll see how this plays out. Woj with the very latest, less than 24 hours from free agency. Opt out of the final year of his contract with the Celtics. He was scheduled to make $34 million. Now he can be a free agent. The news on Klay Thompson, not good. The Warriors star will miss another season. It is our breaking news tonight on SportsCenter. Thompson tearing his right Achilles tendon during a workout yesterday. This after missing last season, recovering from a torn ACL in his left knee. The 30-year-old loses another year in his prime, and it changes how many things could play out in the West this upcoming season for the Warriors. More from team president Bob Myers today.
It's very hard for an athlete, sometimes you get to stop playing on your own time and on your own terms. And Klay's going to keep playing. But when it gets disrupted like this for an athlete of his caliber, it hurts. And it hurts us that care about him. I'm sure our fans that follow us, feel the same way we do.
The undefeated's Mark Spears joins us now live on SportsCenter along with NBA reporter Malika Andrews. Mark, we begin with you because you were there at that Warriors press conference earlier today. What stood out to you on how the franchise is responding to this news about Klay?
Well, this is supposed to be a joyous day. This is the day they introduced their number 2 pick, James Wiseman, also Nico Mannion, their new guard. But it was really somber in the beginning with their GM, Bob Myers, speaking for about 20 minutes about Klay Thompson. And before the press conference, I talked to 3 of Klay's former teammates, or 2 of them actually, Jaja Pachulia and Sean Livingston. They both reached out to him. Sean Livingston, as you remember, had a debilitating leg injury. He told Klay he's here for him. Jaja simply called Klay and told him that he loves him, and they're both going to be continually checking on him because they said they're both worried about him mentally.
It truly is a family atmosphere within that Warriors organization. Malika, let's check in with you because I know you've been talking to people from around the league when this news broke about Klay and the Achilles tear. What are you hearing?
Well, Sage, as you and Mark know, Klay Thompson is a beloved fixture around the NBA. And so I talked to one All-Star who said that he knows that Klay isn't necessarily known for showing emotion, but he cannot imagine how much this hurts. I talked to another coach who just said that it is sad. I talked to one Warriors staffer who said that it is, quote, devastating. This is rattling the league a little bit. There was a lot of expectations that the Warriors were going to be back. This is a player that they wanted to celebrate. They were excited for. And what I keep hearing over and over and over again is that basketball is Klay Thompson's lifeline in many ways. And these players cannot imagine having fought back for so long to make it back to be able to try again after one devastating injury and then is having to go through it all over again. So really, players around the league are feeling for Klay Thompson right now, Sage.
You mentioned his emotion and, of course, competitiveness when you think back to when he tore that ACL in the 2019 finals and he went back in and tried to play. They couldn't keep him out. So